Hey everyone, Catherine Joy here, President of the Alliance for Women Film Composers, and we are thrilled to be doing an Emmy event today, talking with these three amazing women and composers about their latest projects and the ones that are up for the vote, and kind of diving into the scoring process for that. So I'm so glad that you have all joined us, and thank you for being active parts of our membership. So I'm going to introduce these three amazing women. And Natalie, I'm going to start with you. So Natalie has 2 Emmy nominations for LOKI in the Outstanding Main Title Theme Music and Outstanding Composition for a Series categories. She just got nominated again for Television Composer of the Year at the World Soundtrack Awards for Obi-Wan Kenobi alongside John Williams. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi.
Hey. And then next up, we have Nainita Desai, nominated for 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible in the Outstanding Music Composition for a Documentary. And Nainita is also nominated for a News Doc Emmy for The Reason I Jump. And she won Discovery of the Year Award at the World Soundtrack Awards last year. Welcome, Nainita.
Hello, Catherine. Hello, everyone. Hi.
And last but definitely not least, Jessica Jones, nominated for the TINDER SWINDLER, terrifying documentary in the Outstanding Music Composition for a Documentary category. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for being here. It's so wonderful to chat with you. I guess the kind of very obvious thing when we look at the three of you being nominated for this year's Emmys is that you're all from the UK. We have no American composers, women composers nominated this year. And I was just curious, do you feel like there's anything unique about kind of the education and the experience that you receive in the UK that's maybe opened doors for you as you've kind of gotten to know the American scene a little bit? Do you see any differences? Just love to hear your 2 cents on that. Natalie, how about you? You start us off.
I don't think so. I mean, I think, you know, growing up, you know, there were kind of few female role models in the industry, and it was, you know, I think we're all just growing, and you know, there's loads of women in America doing amazing things, and like Pinar Toprak is just someone that springs to mind, who's scoring and great projects, and Nami Milland, and there's a big community of women over here, and I think that I think it's just the luck of the draw this year with the projects that we were on, and I don't think I just think there's loads of talent here and across the pond as well. So yeah.
Nainita?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Echoing what Natalie's saying. I also think that there's a lot of cross-fertilization of projects coming over from US-based projects coming over to the UK and Europe, and UK production companies making a hell of a lot of content. I hate that word, but making film and TV projects for the US. I mean, just conversely, I just noticed that Amanda Jones has just scored a big a UK natural history series for Disney or Apple or one of the streamers. So I think, you know, it's just one of those years where it's just one of those things that the three of us are from the UK, but there's amazing talent everywhere. So I don't think it's just one of those things that's happening.
Yeah, Jessica, what's your thoughts on this? And maybe like you could even give us a little bit of background on what your experience was kind of coming up the ranks in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I feel very similarly to what you guys have said. It feels like the sort of luck of the draw, how you don't notice a sort of big void or anything between the two places. I think I did a master's at a film school called NFTS, which was a way I kind of feel like I started out in the industry. So I wonder, but obviously there's those equivalents in the US, and but yeah, that was kind of my place where I felt like things really started to happen from there onwards for me. Yeah,
I think all three of us went there actually.
Yes, I thought we did.
Yeah, and we're all NFTS graduates, but
there we go.
Great scoring program. Yeah.
This is maybe a correlation versus causation kind of situation. That's so cool though. That you're all alum. So, and all of these projects are on the streamers, Netflix and Disney Plus, and Nainita, yours is on Apple, is that right?
No, it's on Netflix.
It's Netflix as well. Yeah. Okay, great. So how did you did this come through like developing a relationship with those streaming services, or how did these projects come about? Just let's go back around.
So Tinder was made by a production company called Raw, and I had worked with them on a CNN series about Marilyn Monroe just before. So I just finished working with them, so it came direct through the production company as opposed to Netflix themselves.
Right. Okay, cool. And so then they got distribution.
I think they were already working with Netflix, but I certainly heard about the job through them. Yeah.
Through them. That's really cool. Nainita, how about for you?
This was a truly independent film, which is quite lovely. And then when we had finished the film, dubbed it and completed it, and then then they sold it to Netflix. And then what happened was, what we didn't want to happen is that Netflix then came in with a whole bunch of notes and said, we want to change the film again. So they had to open up the edit for another 2 months, unbeknown to me. I wasn't involved in that process. So they started hacking my music a bit, but without telling me. But that was how it got sold to Netflix, because Netflix was so keen and happy with the project. They wanted to take it on as a Netflix original, which is quite unusual.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, I'm not surprised after watching the film. I mean, I'm a huge climbing documentary film fan anyway, so I was so excited to see it. But how did you build a relationship with the crew? How did that collaboration come about?
Well, I had a meeting with the director and he happens to be an exec producer at the film company as well, Noah Media, and he invited me along to a meeting. And this has never happened to me before, but he held up his trump 3 ace cards and said, I've got 3 projects, Nainita, which one would you be interested in working on? And that was like, oh my God, I've never worked on a climbing film before. It's always been a dream of mine. I was very inspired by Touching the Void, which came out about, 12, 15 years ago. So I said, please give me a climbing film, because there's so much that I felt I could prove to myself musically, and so much scope musically that I wanted to achieve on that. So that's how so I got offered that job, and yeah, it was a great creative mountain to climb, to coin a pun.
I see what you did there. Can we dive into this a little bit more before I ask Natalie a million questions about Loki that we all have? But I love what you said, that there was something for you to prove to yourself about doing this. Can you talk more about that? What were those milestones that you wanted to achieve as a composer?
Well, I mean, I know a lot of other composers may have done this before, but I've never written a truly huge symphonic score of this nature before. And also I this is a little bit of a secret, but a lot of people have come up to me in the past and said, can you write music that's masculine, Nainita? Or, and to me, music has no gender, and it shouldn't have a gender. And so I just wanted to prove to myself and the world that yes, I can write a score that is perceived to be male, or male testosterone, and it's a very male cast as well, and a male crew. So that was a really interesting challenge. But in terms of the film itself, I thought there was a lot of opportunity. There are 2 characters in the film. One is Nims himself, who's this fearless character, this fun-loving Nepalese climber to summit. He summited 14 of the world's highest mountains in less than 7 months. And the other character in the film, so sorry, to go back to Nims, I wanted to get to the heart of what makes this man tick and what drives him as a human being. So I'm always interested in projects which give you real insight into the human condition. And this film and this character certainly pushes you to the extreme of what's capable, what people, the human beings are, capable of achieving. So that was huge fun. And then the other character in the film are the mountains themselves. You're immersed in this hostile environment, the brutal landscape. And so musically, I thought, well, the initial brief from the director was, we want you to compose a big symphonic score that matches the scale of the mountains. That for me was the biggest creative challenge, because you've got this beautiful cinematography. How can I achieve that with limited resources? Because we had no budget for a live score. It was all going to be in the box with samples. And then they were so happy with the mock-ups and the demos that I'd been writing, and it was all created during the time of COVID. So they said, well, look, we've managed to save a lot of money by not having to travel to the States and interview people. We'll do all the interviews on Zoom, but here's a huge pot of money, Nainita, to go and record the score at Abbey Road. So
wow.
We're all like drooling a little bit right now as you're telling the story. It's like
that was just a dream.
When does that ever happen? That's amazing. How cool is that?
It was February 2021 we recorded. It was the biggest score band of musicians to come together since after lockdown in COVID. So they're all socially distanced, and that had its technical and creative challenges as well. But it was just a joy and a dream to bring the score to life with a huge string section. So that was fun. I don't want to hog everyone's time, but I mean, there's so much else I could talk about, but
yeah,
come back later. But
yeah, but that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that dream scenario that we will all try to manifest into being for ourselves, because I love that. But well done, and I'm just so excited. And it's I think it's also just like a takeaway is that you created it in the box, and then they gave you the opportunity to do it live. And that's kind of the task that we're all given these days, even to get the opportunities that we have to do it, the manufactured way first, which is one of the super fun parts of our job now.
Absolutely. And also, with the Sonics, that once we had recorded it, and I invited the director to the studio, and he was just drooling. He was drooling when we, but they really appreciated the sound that we created and the way we had to mix it because of COVID. It created a different acoustic, from the studio, because we had to be socially distanced. The microphones were positioned in a certain way, and we had to spread the musicians out in a certain way, in a certain configuration, so that they were all socially distanced, which meant that we had literally more air and a bigger sound being thrown into Studio One at Abbey Road. So that had an effect on how we mixed the score, and it created a literally more air, in the Himalayas, that kind of wide stereo feel surround.
Absolutely.
That was fun.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. It's fascinating. So many things have come out of COVID challenges, which I think will be real assets to us moving forward. Natalie, like, speaking of Nainita going into the human condition, I mean, I think with Loki, it's like you got to delve into the weird god like human like condition of his amazing brain and the way he works. Can you talk a bit about, with this whole, I mean, I think Loki is one of the most exciting characters in the Marvel universe to score, just because he's so amazing and fantastic and mysterious and fun. Can you talk about what things that you were looking to accentuate in the score as you built it?
So I didn't know what the project was that I was pitching for to begin with, because it just came through my agent like Marvel a brief, but it wasn't clear which character it was. And I was looking at what was in development, and I was like, oh, it would be amazing if it was Loki, because he's such a fun character. And then so yeah, I was really delighted about that. And I guess I just wanted to, sorry, like I felt like the way Tom plays it is a bit kind of like a Shakespearean, you know, he's got this flair and flourish, and there's kind of yeah, it reminded me of Mozart, Salieri, him and Thor. They've got this very kind of classic relationship, and so I wanted to bring classical repertoire and then also just do something really fun with the kind of look and feel of the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, and that analog kind of slightly 1960s 70s visuals that I was seeing, and then I was like pulling stuff from Norwegian folk instruments as well to kind of go with Loki's past, and it felt like he could take a big theme, and the show felt like, because it was grand on a grand scale. So again, like Nainita was saying, I felt like I got to sort of flex some bigger chops on this show than is sometimes required.
Yeah, absolutely. And your main title sequence, which you're also nominated for, congratulations. I mean,
Thank you.
it's such a fun, and I mean, it's just like the characteristics are so cool. Can you talk about the process of creating that? Were you working with picture, like what, you know, did you just kind of step away from it and really focus on the character? Like, how was that?
Yeah, I think so. Usually when you read a script, you're just, it's like an abstract, because you don't know who's going to be playing the characters or what it's going to look like. But I felt like with this, when I read the script, I was just seeing it, because you've seen all these Marvel movies, and so you kind of you have more of a feel of how it's going to look and how the character is. So yeah, I guess I kind of developed a lot of material in COVID, in that lockdown, because they had to stop shooting, and then Kate Herron, the director, just decided she wanted to work with the composer, and so then they hired me, and I had like a whole summer basically just coming up with the suite of material for the different characters and the TVA theme, which is the main title sequence. And so when Kate went back to shoot after the lockdown, Tom Hiddleston had, you know, he'd heard the Loki theme, he was walking out on set to it and stuff. So it was really nice. It just felt like really naturally integrated at that point, because I'd had that sort of little head start on creative process with the director.
So you had a TVA theme before the title sequence, like the visual title sequence.
Yeah. They actually weren't going to have one.
Married, you know.
They weren't going to have a title sequence. Like Kate and Kevin were saying, yeah, we don't think we're going to do one. And then I came up with that, and then Kate was like, I think this would be really cool. And it's sort of, they decided to have a title sequence because of that piece of music. So that's quite fun.
Away. I love it. That's incredible. And
yeah,
you doing a lot of this during COVID as well. And
yeah,
and a lot of the communication, I believe, was virtual, right? You weren't
completely. I didn't meet anyone. Yeah. They were all in Atlanta, and everything, like all the recordings. Like I didn't do anything, even mixing with the engineer. It was just all done on like audio movers and Zoom.
So how was that experience, and like what challenges did you find? What did you put any like kind of processes in place to make that work better?
Well, weirdly, because I was also like homeschooling, because I've got a 7-year-old at that time, so I found it like so much easier. Like if I'd been flying back and forth around the world to do the job, I think it would have been really challenging. But actually, it was quite, I could fit it in the evenings, and you know, when everything's Zoom based, it is actually much easier to work around family, you know, your family life. So that was kind of an amazing experience actually, and it kind of opened up. And also that feeling of just like less pressure as well, I quite liked, because I felt like I was a bit more kind of enclosed in my own space, kind of coming up with something in a bit of a bubble, because we were all in a bit of a bubble. I don't know if you felt that, Nainita and Jessica.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for good music to happen, often you need that sense of safety, right? So you really can explore, and it's cool that another, you know, of the beneficial side effects of COVID was creating that, like maybe that sense of safety for you. And and also just like the ability to focus, as you said, not being pulled like physically to meetings everywhere.
Mhm.
Jessica, did that feed into your experience with doing this score?
Yeah, I mean, so similar. I don't think I met anyone till it was all done in person. So it was all remote. I mean, I did it all. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was still, I think it was sort of early in the winter. So there was still a lot of the lockdown. So we did just all remote recording, but they kind of come, I mean, because with Tinder, so Felicity called me and said it was like, told me the story of it. And it's so mind-blowing. And also like just the way that Simon is, he'd do this like aggressive romance. So he'd kind of like love bombing. So when you're like, I love you and I want to have your babies and I want to marry you, and like so quickly. So I think we wanted to do that in the music. So like go really big and romantic. But yeah, again, it was like trying to do something on that scale with the lockdown. And so I think I did three strings and like a few woodwind, then piano, and I did it all remotely, but then kind of brought it all back in. And it was lovely doing it like that. I kind of loved it because then you had all the different themes to use across that, like kind of weave the recordings a bit in a kind of quite natural way, which is a very different experience to doing it all at the end, I found. And I didn't not like it. I quite like doing it like that, actually, in a lot of ways. So,
yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, the story of the Tinder Swindler is it's pretty horrifying. How was it like working on something that was, you know, kind of that devastating for the, I mean, it's one, it's real life. And two, it's definitely extremely current and really horrifying. And I mean, I think one thing I noticed, you know, like just from watching is that you would, you know, when things were good, you made the music really good, even that there was maybe like subtle hints of like trouble brewing, but like, how did that play into your process? Like that kind of preparation?
Yeah, I think that that it is very horrifying, but the Cecily and Pernilla and Eileen, they were so amazing with how they went about kind of getting him, essentially, that I think we were trying to sort of feed into that a lot, and kind of their story and how it was for them, because, you know, I was on Tinder for a long time, and I don't think, obviously I didn't experience anything to that extent, but that kind of feeling of someone going so in and making, and it's quite confusing. And I think a lot of my friends had those sorts of experiences, so it felt close to home in some ways. Yeah, and I think the way it ends, I mean, I know it wasn't like a happy ending, but they did that moment where she's selling his clothes, and I just love it. I think they're amazing, honestly. They're great. So
it sounds like your focus was, even though it's called the Tinder Swindler, and of course a lot of the focus is on Simon and you know, he's terrible deeds, but it sounds like you really enjoyed celebrating the women in the story.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's like kind of we made themes for them, and yeah, I think just trying to kind of go a bit big and bold and romantic with the music, and kind of allow, you know, we wanted the music to sell that, make that story like that. It's incredible what they did, honestly. Like, so I think hopefully we got the score to kind of go on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the questions that I had for you three, and you know, these are kind of big projects, and now they definitely are, now that they're nominated for an Emmy, and it sounded like it felt that way to you from the beginning. As you were working on this, and as you stand here now looking at this milestone of the Emmy nomination, like what tools were in your tool belt already as you started working on this project that you were really glad that you had developed along the way of your career? What things were you really leaning on, you know, either with like music production or scoring or orchestrationally? Jessica, you want to take it?
Let me think. I think what I'm trying to kind of create themes that do feel consistent through a show. I think you always go in with that intention, but it's sometimes quite hard to not just go from cue to cue, and then it sort of is it doesn't have the consistency. And I think that really helps sort of tie things. I think trying to be consistent with repetition, I guess, and not being too scared to let something come back, and not just, oh, we're going to do this section now and not connect to anything. I think that was useful. I think yeah, I guess in terms of mixing and producing, like having a nice good like microphones to record things at home. Like I've last couple of years been recording a lot of piano and violin here, so getting in good equipment to do that in the way that you want that to come across, so you don't need to go and redo it. Yeah, it's useful.
Absolutely, that's really cool. Nainita?
Well, I have recorded with an orchestra a few times before, you know, different sizes of ensembles. So that was a really great skill set of familiarity to work with on this. But also my background in world music and sound design was useful for this too. So, you know, when I'm mapping out the arc of a film with music, in the same way that a filmmaker, a director is editing and telling the story through pictures and script and storytelling, I want to do the same with music. And so knowing when there isn't a huge amount of music in the film, so I think it's important to know where not to use music and where to use music. And from my background as a sound designer, you know, I'm looking at the whole sonic landscape of the film, not just let's just get the music out there and make it big and bombastic and loud. You know, it's like knowing sometimes you don't need silence is music to me as well. And that's been a really useful tool to understand. So sometimes you just want to hear the crunch of the shoes on the snow, and you want to hear the wind whistling through the mountains, because that's also part of the storytelling as well. And also in terms of my background in world music, working for Peter Gabriel and Real World Studios, that helped enormously, because just being familiar with the cultural heritage of Nepal and the Himalayas was useful. Having learned the tablas as a child and sort of really being interested in Indian classical music and rhythms and cross rhythms. So I wanted to get that across in this film, and getting the strings to play. I didn't want the music to be terribly ethnic, because that would localize it too much. I wanted to reach a universal audience, but just having smatterings and touches of ethnicity to the music, using sort of Nepalese plucked string instruments like the kemench, that's the violin that I'm pointing to back there, and sort of other Central Asian instruments I've got, and getting the strings to play 10 rhythms in a slightly unusual way. Just the sound of the London Contemporary Orchestra, the way you hear the sound of the bow hitting the bridge, it is a wild rawness to it that echoed the wildness of the landscape. So, you know, that sort of world music and sound design background really helped inform, you know, the orchestral foundation of the score as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And Natalie, how about for you?
I just learned a bunch of new stuff through Marvel, because they have quite a streamlined system of doing things, and like I hadn't really done a suite before, so I found that super useful. Like a 12-minute, actually I think it's about 50 minutes, but they sent me some examples, and I listened to like Ludwig's Black Panther and like the Ragnarok, the Mother's Bow one, and just like seeing how different composers do a suite and then use it as a, you know, starting point, and then you give that to your music editor. And I've never worked with such a big team of music editors either, and so yeah, I just felt like LOKI, I learned a lot, which I've carried on using since then. I think doing a suite is just great to focus your mind in and come up with like a durable theme.
Yeah, so that's something that you feel like you're going to be doing from now on?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's fantastic. We have a few questions from our wonderful members who are watching, and I'm going to, because this is a UK team Commonwealth, because I'm Australian and half English. So I'm going to give the first question to a UK member, but they were asking you all live in the UK. Like, have you felt for your careers that you needed to move to LA? How has it been for you? Have you tried to develop a relationship, like visited the LA or the States a bunch and develop relationships here? How has that happened for you? And Nat, if you want to start us off, and then we'll go back around. Natalie.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, so this isn't a screensaver. I'm actually in LA at the moment.
Where are you?
I'm in Palisades.
Oh my goodness.
Like, yeah, staying with a friend. I'm doing a little concert tomorrow with some friends. But so I came over for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I had to score that here. And I really love LA, like the community here and everything. I really enjoy spending time here. And then it's like I'm kind of feel like I'm between places at the moment, but I since Brexit I have really struggled with the UK, just feeling that we've cut ourselves off and not part of Europe anymore. And I think we're living in weird times where we don't quite feel at home anywhere. But yeah, I'm currently enjoying muddling up between the two places.
Yeah, absolutely. Nainita, how about for you?
Well, I always felt that the US was out of the reach of us English British composers historically, and that the two were very much divided into the market and the type of programs and shows and films that were being made. And then about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I worked on a film that got into Sundance. And I thought, I've heard so many wonderful things about Sundance Film Festival that I decided to go over. Went to LA as well at the same time, made a whole bunch of connections, managed to get an agent as well based in LA following on from that. And I've made a few trips out. I haven't been out since before the pandemic. Obviously, this is going to be my first trip back. But I kept those connections going. And I feel that the industry has changed so much over the last couple of years, where because of Zoom and because of the pandemic, it's really, in some ways, it's really helped things make the world a much smaller place. So I've felt that, I was working for a big client in LA last year, and we would have Zoom meetings every couple of weeks. And it was okay. I mean, I suffered because of the time zone, having to be up late at night to meet LA time. But I think that we're in a really good place, and you don't have to be. I think if you're prepared to travel, and I love traveling and meeting people, and it's great to be out in LA and the UK, as long as you're I think it's worth keeping in with people, meeting people in real life, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, making that trip out to LA. But you can be almost anywhere, I think, and work as long as you've got a strong broadband connection.
The internet connection. Jessica, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got a lot of family in LA actually, because all my cousins live there. So I probably over my life went there loads as nothing to do with work, and then hardly any really when I have been working. Because yeah, I think the pandemic's meant that all those years where things have been sort of very busy has felt like it's all been remote. And then, but I'm really keen to start kind of going out there a little bit more, especially because I can see my cousins and everything, and it's nice to have friends out there that are completely unrelated to anything to do with work as well. It's nice. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that question is so applicable, because I know a lot of our members are not in LA, they're all over the States or all over the world. So it's really, really cool to hear your response on that. We have a really fun question here from another member. They were just saying how all of your projects have reached a lot of people. And has there ever been like a kind of a pinch me fun moment when you realized how many ears your scores have reached? Like, it's been some unexpected billboards or internet reactions or something where you're just like, this is crazy. This is my life now. Jessica, how about you get us started?
Yeah, I mean, I think, because Tinder, obviously, it was just didn't feel like it was all over Times Square and it was all over the London Underground. And I think that those days when it just came out, and then everyone I knew was texting me talking about it, and it felt, yeah, it did feel very unreal at that, in that moment. Sort of, it really exploded. I think it was the most watched documentary ever, and it was the most something mad, like, yeah, the hours it was people were watching it was insane, like millions of hours or something. So yeah, definitely felt very funny.
How about for you, Nainita?
Well, I knew I'd made it when the story of the Emmy nomination for 14 Peaks reached the Himalayan Times newspaper.
Oh, I love that. Amazing.
I was really chuffed. I just thought I was getting messages from on Instagram from people in the Himalayas and the Nepalese and just sort of people all over the place. And I just thought that really, I just felt so proud and chuffed that people were connecting with the film and the story, like, you know, like Tinder Swindler, I think, you know, and even Loki. I think you both, I mean, Natalie, you must have had amazing feedback. I know you had amazing feedback on that, but it just tickles me pink when you think that just ordinary folk are listening to your work and it connects with them. That's just the best feeling ever.
Yeah. How about for you, Natalie? Did you have any crazy?
Yeah, I think so. I met this trombone player called Christopher Bill. Sorry, I've got people arriving to do some quartet rehearsals in a minute. Christopher Bill, and he teaches at the World Trombone Festival for kids, and he just sent me this video of, like, I don't know, 50 trombone players doing an arrangement he'd done of the Loki theme. And I was like, oh, it's so cool, and these kids are all playing it, and it's just really nice that, you know, obviously they enjoy the show and then they want to play it in their when they're practicing the trombone. That felt like a big moment that, yeah, that anyone would want to bother arranging it and playing it independently. That's quite cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about all three of you? Can you touch on and I mean, we have this question pretty much at every panel, but I feel like it's because, you know, everyone just, it's such a critical and key question, especially for those maybe who are starting out in the industry, like how this is a two-parter and hit them, you know, as concisely as you can. So I'm going to try to get through more here. And it is kind of a bigger question, but one, how did you get your foot in the door in the industry? So if you can talk about that kind of initial step for you, what did it look like for you? And then I think all three of you have agents now. If you can talk about now this phase of the agent phase, do you have an agent? Like, has that been helpful? Was it only helpful at a certain stage? So if you can kind of hit those two kind of moments, and Natalie, we'll start with you and go back around.
Yeah, so I've been through a few agents, and they've all been brilliant in their own way, but the one I'm with at the moment, she's so supportive, and I think it's really important to have that someone that you feel is really like, you know, she was kind of there for me when I had no work going on in America, and she had faith, and I would say, like, she's really helped me kind of build up my career, and she's just been really supportive, and I think it's important to have an agent that's working for you and not just fielding things that you're bringing to them. It's like you should be bringing equal amounts to each other. I think that's from in the dream relationship with an agent. I think that's what they'll be doing.
Yeah, and how did you originally get your foot in the door?
Originally,
an agent.
Oh, yeah. Well, I worked for after I left film school. I assisted composers, a couple of composers, and then I kind of went back to playing because I just kind of wasn't earning enough money. So I was playing session musician for a while, and then and Martin Phipps was really my big break because I assisted him, but he made my contributions visible. You know, he kind of had me in meetings, and then when we kind of I wrote quite some additional music for him, and he put it out there, and like so yeah, that kind of meant that I was able to then get work for myself. And he handed over the last season of Wallander, which he'd scored, but he kind of produced that, but that was my first kind of thing on my own. So having a really supportive mentor has been everything to me as well. Yeah.
And I have to say, Wallander, just watched it a few times. Absolutely love that
Oh.
show. Everyone should check it out. It's amazing. Nainita, how about for you? How did you break in, and how's that agent situation for you now?
Well, I didn't have any mentors. I came up at a time and it wasn't really a thing. And I had imposter syndrome. I really wanted to be a composer, and I didn't feel I had the right skill set to be a composer. I didn't realize it was a thing I could make a living out of. So I actually started off in the industry as a sound designer on feature films. So I went to film school to do sound, and I came out working on big features as a sound effects editor and sound designer and dialogue and Foley's and all of that. And that gave me a fantastic background and foundation in the sonic landscape of filmmaking. And then it wasn't creative enough for me musically. So I then became a music engineer, assistant music engineer, and worked as a freelance music engineer working in music. And then the combination of all that skill set was great for me, because I became friends with a music supervisor who knew I wanted to write music and said, look, I'm doing the music for a show for Channel 4. Would you like to write the music for one of the episodes? So I got my first commission sort of in at the deep end, baptism by fire, and I'd sort of learned on the job really. And that was, and then that was my first job. And you just sort of, I built up my network from there on. And in terms of agents, I've worked my way around quite a few agents over the years as well, and I'm very, very happy with the agent I have now. It's a bit like kissing frogs, and until you meet your prince, you just find the relationship with your agent is so important, that there's honesty and truth, and you sort of scratch each other's backs, and my agents really work very hard for me, and so I didn't go searching for an agent. They just came to me really through connections, and so I'm very happy with my agents at the moment.
I love how you were like circling, kind of composing before you actually were finally given this. And I think a lot of us can identify with the imposter syndrome situation. So I appreciate you sharing that. Jessica, how was it for you?
I think sounds like I had a really similar experience to Natalie, in that sort of doing a lot of assisting, and then I worked, or still work with, and for Anne Nicotine, who was like my Martin Phipps. It's just been amazing. Did so much of her. We just finished a series together, and I just love her. She's amazing. And then also, my agent, so I signed with Manners McDade really early on when I was doing assisting, and then my agent now, Jenna, started sort of around the same time I did, and she's just been great, and like we're very similar people, and we just get on really well, and she's just amazing at her job, so and lovely. So yeah, I think having those kind of core group of people around you that you trust is great, and then I think trying to be that for other people is really important. So you can, like, remembering what was special for you, how much people were there for you, and kind of doing that as you go forward, I think, or hopefully you'll try and do.
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting. It sounds like with all three of you, and Nainita, with you as the music supervisor, and then and with you two, the composers you spoke of, it's so important to have someone, give you visibility and help you be seen. I think that's really important. I think that comes from, being a part of the community, and also putting yourself out there so you can build those relationships. That's really cool. We are about to wrap up, and it's been such a pleasure talking with you three. And I would just love to hear if you have any last words for our members, like any reflection on your journey so far, any words of encouragement that you would like to share. I would love to end on that note. Nainita, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh gosh, I mean, you just don't give up. There are a lot of obstacles, and the higher you go up from project to project up this perceived ladder of success, or whatever you may call it. It doesn't get any easier. You know, you think that it's easy, and it's just, so I think you just have to really, I know it's a real cliche, but you have to enjoy the journey that you're on. And I'm constantly pinching myself to think, wow, I got to record at Abbey Road, or wow, I met, you know, someone I really admire, or, you know, and I'm really looking forward to going to LA for the Emmys. You know, whatever the outcome, I just think, I cannot believe this is amazing. So I just enjoying the journey, and working hard, and collaborating with people. This is the industry we're in, where it's an industry of collaboration, and it's just, I love that, really, ultimately.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jessica?
I think look after your health, like don't burn yourself out in a major way. My unrelated, but my retina detached when I was doing Tinder Swindler, like right in the midst of everything. But I took like 2 weeks out of it and paused it all, and you know, because I couldn't look at anything for a couple of weeks. So I think that was like a big lesson in like not thinking you have to just plow through when you're unwell.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. It's such a good point. And Natalie, last words?
Yeah, because I feel like when you having a child for me is, it's just like made me more disciplined about like not pulling those late nights, and prioritizing time with her in a way that I didn't when it was just me on my own. But I think it is really important, like to give yourself the creative space to kind of have breaks as well, like and then when you come back to work, just be a bit more like, I think I was actually less focused when I was spending more time. So it's like using your time wisely. I think that's something I've really learned in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your opening up to us and sharing your amazing experiences. Huge congratulations on your nominations, and we will be super excited to watch the outcome. I'd like to thank Jessica Jones, Nainita Desai, and Natalie Holt for being with us, and thank you for being part of our organization. Thanks to all the members for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all on the next panel. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.